All right, we are back with another episode of Agent Apprentice podcast. Adam, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. We just had a great workout at Winnipesaukee Athletic Club, which is very
Tuesdays, it's
enjoyable.
becoming a regular thing. Get the Dow Group over there every Tuesday.
Yeah, the boot camp.
Yeah, boot camp.
Yeah, good workout. How's everything going with now that we're over a month into the year with all the health challenges, making progress?
So I am net down for the year,
Hmm.
but not for the last 2 weeks.
Okay, okay. So kind of we talked about the real estate roller coaster. We're kind of
Yes.
riding the weight roller coaster a little bit.
Yeah, I've lost about 100 pounds, but it's the same 10
Yeah.
pounds.
Just over and over again.
Yeah,
I feel
exactly.
you. We were talking. I've plateaued a little bit, but I feel like I'm cheating because I'm trying to gain weight. I'm trying to get up to
Oh,
170,
I'd love that challenge.
and I'm stuck at like the mid 160s right now. So we'll figure it out.
I am on track with the push-up challenge that we've
Yes,
100,000 push-ups. So I think I just crested 11,000 so far this year.
nice. I'm a little behind you. I think I'm at like 8,000 right now. I get this shoulder impingement, I guess I
Mhm.
want to call it, going on right
That
now.
sounds
So
official.
yeah, just stretching it out, taking it light,
Yeah.
doing like 50 a day. And, you know, once we rest a little bit, I'll just increase the number and get back to it. But we'll make sure we get to the goals. But as for real estate, something I wanted to talk to you about here is a very specific source of business,
Yep.
the expireds and the withdrawns.
So we're in a second home market. We're in a market that it snows.
Hmm.
So we do have a very seasonal market.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that will just take a break. They'll
Yep.
take it off for the winter. And sometimes that's a good idea because, I tell people to look at their property as an asset and how much of that asset is covered by snow. If your biggest asset's the beach, the lawn, all of the things that are summertime related, then maybe it's a good time to wait till the spring or what have you. But if it's a really nice house and it is a beautiful time of year, sometimes it's good to be on the winter because you don't have as much inventory.
Right. Yeah. And that's something that I've been talking about with sellers a lot lately is, I mentioned it to you yesterday. As of right now, we're in the second week of February. When I checked on Monday or Tuesday, there was only 8 active listings in Wolfboro and
Yeah,
only 9 in Tuftonboro.
that's not a
So,
lot.
no, that's not a lot at all.
Right.
So, I mean, it certainly could be advantageous if, part of your asset isn't necessarily, the beach,
Right.
stuff like that to go on the market now because buyers are still out looking, things are still selling.
And I heard one just hit the market just over 600 in Wolfboro, and they're getting a boatload of activity.
Right, exactly. So it all comes down to timing. Now, when you were working with someone who came off the market, maybe they weren't happy about their experience or they
Yeah.
weren't getting a lot of feedback, things like that. How do you kind of manage one handling their questions about what can you do differently to
Yeah.
sell our property and how are you guiding them through the process to say it is still possible to get your property sold, maybe it just needed a different marketing approach or,
Right.
something else.
So, I mean, that's one of the lead generation levers that agents pull. It's the expired calls. And I, with integrity or however you want to say it, is like I would call people that I thought I could do a better job. Right.
Mhm.
Maybe I'd look at the photos and say, wow, I think a professional photographer would do this property justice. I don't think it's showing as well as it could online. Look at the ad copy. Maybe look at the agent. Are they local or do they have the roots here that they can actually explain the area as well as the house?
Mhm.
So I'd want to know what I brought to the table that might be a different approach or an approach that might have some success in it. And then I would call, and the main reason for the call is we do have buyers over the winter as well. So I love to have shadow inventory. I like to have those properties where if somebody comes up, they're frustrated. There's one property to see in the price range, and I can say, well, I just spoke with a seller. It was on the market last year. They're open to showings. Show them the pictures, and they might say, yeah, I'd like to see that. Maybe we sell it without even having to put it back on the market. So, it's 2 reasons to call people that have had their house on the market before. One, you think you can bring something to the table, and two, it's an additional inventory for our current buyers.
Right. Right. That's a big thing too, and something that I've been as I'm jumping into the expireds now, trying to pull that lever of finding, different ways to generate business is asking just to preview the property.
Yep.
And to you as owner of the team, broker, you feel it wouldn't be a waste of my time just to go preview a
No.
property.
I mean, inventory, that's our stock and trade. We sell houses. Let's go look at more houses. So
Right.
even if it's a property that may or may not come on the market,
Hmm.
I don't think it's a waste of time to see somebody's house that they might sell in the future. For us, it's all about relationship,
Yeah.
coming with authenticity. And so if you can go over there, make a good relationship, see the house, who knows if the phone rings the next day, it could be somebody that wants that 3 bedroom, 2 bath that has some privacy. You never know.
Right, right. And a lot of the time too, you kind of alluded to it, is that it doesn't always necessarily come down to price as well, where someone may be on the market and it doesn't sell and they get discouraged and they're saying, well, I'm not lowering my price. I need X amount of dollars. It could have been, the marketing. It could have been the exposure that
Right.
they weren't getting for their house.
We talked on Tuesday about the 4 Ps.
Yeah.
And it starts with preparation. Basically, there's you getting yourself ready for, we call it the defensive value. Like when somebody comes in and says, this is overpriced, what are we going to say to that? Because everyone says that, right?
Yep.
So what's our defensive value? Knowing the comps, knowing the neighborhood, just knowing more about the market than the consumer does. And then there's some onus on the seller. Let's clean the house. We'll provide a staging consultation.
Hmm.
And what are the things that you would do to get the house ready for sale, ready for photos? And then we talk about the strategic route of showing the property, where we'll start at the front door and we'll go right to the view. Maybe we'll go to the kitchen. Maybe we'll go to the living room, depending on which is more impressive. Or maybe we'll skip the house and go right to the waterfront, because that's the 90% of the value.
Right.
So preparation is a big part of it. And then we go to promotion. That's our job.
Hmm.
I say exposure is not the problem. It's going to be on Zillow. It's going to be on competitors' websites. The preparation for the photos and then the professional photos, that's what's important. It's going to be everywhere. It just has to look nice everywhere. And that's our job, and that's the seller's job in getting the home ready. So, we have all different strategies. We have our listing launch process. We've got our heads up program. We've got, open house strategies. And then, the third P is presentation.
Yep.
And that's us showing the property. We show up early. We make sure the property's in order. We make sure that our brochure is just, it's going to set the property apart. If they go back and they've seen 5 houses, they got 5 brochures on the table. We want ours to be the best.
Yep.
Because we want to elevate the property at any point in the process that we can. We do single property websites for our luxury, homes. We'll customize a logo. Like, our presentation isn't just throwing it at MLS and letting it sell. We want to elevate the property, whether we're creating urgency or we're just being very professional in our materials and ourselves presenting the property.
Yep.
And then prices last.
Yeah.
We purposely put it last. When we talk about it, we talk about it last. The seller wants to know that we've pulled every single lever before we talk to them about price.
Hmm.
And that's what we promise. We say, all right, we're going to try all of these things. It's worked for 2,500 other homes, right? It's a process that we keep refining, but it has been successful. And if we do all these things and it doesn't work, then we eventually have to talk about price.
Right.
But
Right.
that's last.
Yep. And that goes back to, the amount of showings that we're getting
Yep.
or not getting, the feedback that we're getting as well once we get people into the property. But all of that comes from those steps beforehand of, preparing and promoting the property.
Yep. And we do what we can, and then we listen to the market.
Hmm.
We have a call every Monday morning where the team gets together, and if you have 5 open houses that weekend, we talk about, all right, who had people show up, who didn't have people show up. If all the open houses didn't have people show up, it's a market.
Yep.
We're not going to tell our seller we didn't have anyone lower your price because no one else had any buyers come in. So that's a market issue. Maybe it was a weekend issue. Maybe it was a holiday. Who knows what it was, but it wasn't that particular house. But, conversely, if you have 5 open houses, 4 of them are packed
Yep.
and one isn't, you might have a pricing conversation with the one. So that's where the team really helps us to have a 30,000 foot view of our market, because we have people everywhere, and I can, be a part of that. But we bring the conversation to the team every Monday to say, is this a market problem or is this a particular property's price?
Yeah, it is super helpful to have those conversations on Mondays with the team, because being able to take that information back to a seller and say, "Hey, our team did have 6 other open
Yeah.
houses. It's the same promotion strategy.
Yep.
So it's not like we were lagging behind on yours. These open houses had a lot of people, yours didn't, or vice versa, where none of the open houses were really busy because it is Memorial Day weekend and people are out, on the lake or doing whatever, as opposed to out shopping for homes."
And I find that holidays are hit or miss. It's like either sometimes it's fantastic or sometimes it's dead. There's no real rhyme or reason to it.
Yep.
And we get very, we have all of these ways of beta testing things too. Like we have the discussions, hey, I did one from 8 to 10, on
Yeah.
a Saturday, and people liked it because they were able to come see the house and then do something instead of having something jammed in the middle of the day that
Right.
they want to go see and then have to, put things on either side. So we're always testing what's working, collaborating and trying to, level up together.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember in the fall I did an open house from 5 to 7 on a Friday
Yeah.
after people were off of work, and we didn't necessarily have a lot of people come through. I think it was just 2 groups, but one of the groups ended up buying the house, and that was the first time that they saw it.
Yeah.
So yeah, just finding different ways of, when is the best time to promote it, and always strategizing that.
And with the team, we get a couple other opportunities for doing open houses because we have some agents that are light on their inventory and they say, I'd love to do an open house for you. So, the open house still is a big lever to get things sold and, get people introduced to the property. Some people won't want to make an appointment because we do have assisted showings, but they wouldn't mind coming to an open house, figuring it's already open and, they can come see it without a lot of pressure.
Definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, I would say, long story short, is that if you are someone that was on the market previously, you didn't necessarily have the success that you wanted, it didn't end up selling, it's not necessarily, your house or your price.
Right.
It may just take a different strategy and a different approach. And that's why it's worth having the conversation.
Right. And it's not a waste of time for us because, like we said before, we want to learn about all the inventory that's out there, whether it's coming, whether it's on the market. Maybe decided not to sell, but if the right buyer came along, you might sell. So we like to come, make the relationship, see the house, and see if we can do something for you.
Definitely, definitely. And then on the last episode, we kind of talked about, you challenged me, what am I going to do for February? And
Right.
I talked about, my potential business spreadsheet that I'm keeping track of. And I
Yeah.
said I wanted to add 3 more people to it. Went through that list, ended up taking 2 people off of it,
Yeah.
which is it's a good thing too,
Yeah.
because you don't want, you know, good leads bearing bad, or bad leads bearing the good leads,
Yeah.
right? So keeping tabs on them. So I had to take 2 people off, which was fine. So I was like, all right, well, now if I want to get to that number that I set, I got to find even more people. So I dove into expireds and was able to add, 3 more houses to that potential business list, which was good. And that also was like, all right, I got a goal now. I just having that conversation of like, what's your goal going to be? And then finding ways to, all right, I'm going to
Right.
add to it is great accountability to move my business forward, which is good. So like we did last episode, I'll throw it over to you now. I'm going to put you on the spot because I
Here we
didn't
go.
give you
I thought you
a
were
heads
the
up on this here.
apprentice.
But what question or challenge do you have for me? Being that I'm the apprentice side here, going into the next time that we talk.
So for you, I think that having conversations with your suppliers,
Mhm.
the people that you've partnered with that you trust, that give 5-star service.
Yep.
Your family's in the industries. You've got uncles in the industries. We call it people to know list.
Yeah.
Like I like to call that list and ask them what's their feeling of the market. What is their feeling of the summer? What's coming up? Like, are they getting more calls than they did last year? Are they getting less calls than they did last year? Like,
Mm,
I'll call up and down Main Street and say, how is this summer compared to last summer? And it's just, for us, it's all about building those relationships. So I challenge you to, go down your people to know list and get their excitement level for the summer.
yeah.
Like, because if you talk to a buyer 2 days from now and you've talked with four builders and they say, I've had my phone's ringing off the hook,
Yep.
that's information for your buyers.
Yeah.
If they say, oh, I'm dead, I can't believe this. Last year at this time, I was super busy quoting properties. That's information for your buyer. So this time of year is when you really dig into peeling back the onion. I like to call it car dealers. I've got a couple, houses that I've sold to car dealers, and I say, how's business? Because that's
Yeah.
a precursor to home sales. So I'd dig into your people to know list and just get a snapshot of the economy.
Yeah. That's a great idea because um, a lot of like businesses do relate to one another.
Yeah.
If you see someone that owns an HVAC business, if they're like super busy with either maintenance or having things replaced, that could be a sign of people are getting ready to move. They want to make sure everything is up to speed. Um, and going back to like the cars too, if people are buying a lot of cars right now, the economy's probably good. People probably have some extra money. Are we going to see an uptick in second home sales?
Well, and I think whatever the information is, your buyers want to know, your clients want to know.
Right.
Like if we're seeing some pre-indications of some weakening, both of our sellers and maybe the seller wants to get a little bit more aggressive on price, or buyers want to move more quickly, or maybe not have as many showstoppers in their criteria. So that's why, I mean, today we talked about on our call two articles in the Wall Street Journal that I looked up and said, all right, here's one. How does it relate to the United States, and how does it relate to New Hampshire?
Yep.
And one, it didn't relate at all.
Yeah.
But our consumers are seeing it, so we're providing information. That's our job. We want to be, our craft is negotiation, but it's also having the information for the negotiation. So the better you can dig in and find the stuff that people wouldn't think of or don't have the time to do. That's a good thing to do in February.
Definitely. Definitely. Perfect. Well, that sounds like a great challenge. Adam, as always, thanks for joining me. And everybody, make sure you subscribe to the Dow Group YouTube channel and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this. Thanks for listening.